On September 3rd, 2021, Alex Pereira signed his first contract with the UFC. Just 2 years later, we start to hear conversations like this.
I mean, it's just kickboxing. It's just stand-up. There's no groundwork. There's never been a takedown. There's never a defense of a submission. There's never been a submission thrown up, and he just might be the GOAT.
It's great kickboxers. There's a lot of great kickboxers. There's knockout artists. This is different. Yeah. It's like a different kind of human. He's built different.
He is the current pound for pound in my opinion because the frequency of his fights and the success that he's having. He is dispatching these people. He's not just beating them. He's not just winning. He is dispatching these contenders and turning them around in violent fashion.
How could somebody become a part of the GOAT conversation while only being in the organization for just over 3 years? Well, to understand that, you have to know what kind of man Alex Pereira is. Pereira grew up in a favela. His family was big, counting 7 children, and his parents did the best they could to support them. However, such conditions are not the best for academic progress, so Alex decides to leave middle school at just 12 years old to work in a tire shop. His co-workers influenced him and he began drinking, which eventually led to alcoholism. By the age of 16, he would drink a bottle of cachaça a day. During this period, he also loses his elder brother to drugs. To overcome his addiction, he started training in kickboxing in 2009. The year is 2012. Alex Pereira makes his professional debut in kickboxing at the age of 25, trying to support his 2 children. Not everything goes as planned, and he suffers defeat from Jason Wilness, who first knocked him down with a body shot and finished him with a leg kick. This was his first hurdle which Alex had to overcome in fighting, and the man to help him was Belo Caveira. He started to train him and built up his character, but what had the most impact was the introduction to his ancestors and heritage. It was his coach who taught him not only about fighting, but about how he could find energy and strength in his indigenous heritage. That's why you can see Pereira covered in paint during his stare downs. This is a traditional tribal pattern to summon upon spirits. How's that for mysterious? With a newfound fighting style and spirit, Alex Pereira starts to gain traction. He becomes state champion, Pan American champion, and wins the Open Games. This is when the history of the UFC was changed forever. For the first time, he meets his rival, Israel Adesanya. Alex ended up winning the fight by decision, which did not make Izzy particularly happy.
It was a close fight, sure, but you know, if you're scoring the fight according to the criteria of kickboxing, I mean, I was doing work, and I watched the highlights as well. My game is a lot different, and my striking's always been better suited for MMA. I've said that from the jump. I'm just really good at striking that I just dominated in kickboxing, but my striking has always been better suited for MMA, and yeah, again, we'll see.
They had the opportunity to meet a second time in 2017. This time, the judges did not need to be involved. Pereira leaves no questions with a stone-cold knockout and the most devastating loss in Izzy's career. While Izzy decided to pursue MMA and join the UFC, ultimately becoming one of the greatest middleweights of all time, Alex stayed in glory. He doesn't fall far behind from his rival and becomes the first ever two-way glory champion. It seems like everything is going nice for both fighters' careers.
I love Marvel. He goes, it was like when Thanos showed up.
Yeah.
And he's just collecting Infinity Stones. There's a timeline. You know there's a bad guy, and then there's this ultimate bad guy who was just in some fucking bar in Brazil, and then Izzy had to open his mouth.
He's gonna be at some pub talking some shit about, I beat that guy one time, trying to get a dick sucked from a crack whore or some shit.
This lit up a new competitive fire in Pereira. The nightmare of the middleweight division arrived on November 6, 2021. UFC 268, Usman versus Covington. Everybody wondered how a world-class kickboxer would do in the octagon.
He's a good fighter, but that's MMA, that's not kickboxing, so he has to be aware of many things.
It's surprising to see, like, Israel's pretty big. He looks tall and lanky, but he's actually a big dude. And then you see Pereira up against him, and just his facial features are bigger. His feet and hands and forearms are massive. I'm just thinking, like, who let this guy in? But still, you know, I think I can take him.
This guy has that crazy power. He's got something weird where he hits guys. They look confused. I was like, this fucking guy's terrifying. He was just different. Like, the power was different. The style was different. It's a weird style.
Alex Pereira's not that good. He's not as good as you guys think. You don't know what you're looking at. No offense, but you don't. But he's not as good as he thinks either.
Their questions would be answered very quickly and in fashion.
Speaking to it, all the clinch and the grab.
And he would do this to top UFC middleweights, including the would-be champion Sean Strickland. Who does that to UFC champions while on their third fight in the promotion? Finally, he gets to Izzy, and the hype begins.
You know, he should be grateful. He wouldn't be here without me.
You're gonna be alone inside that octagon without a team.
Oh yes, you and me. Don't worry, but they're gonna be with me. They're gonna be with me in spirit. Because trust me, they can't save you either when you're locked in there with me.
It's all talk until the cage closes, and boy did everybody think that it would be wild. They didn't disappoint. Izzy confidently outstruck his former opponent for 4 rounds straight. Poton understood that he needed a knockout.
One round for you to be a world champion. 5 minutes. Enough. You need to get to him. You need to approach him. Okay? You need to knock him out. Listen, you need to knock him out.
The round starts, and boom! He lands a mean left hook. Izzy remains on the feet. He tries to bop and weave, but can't withstand the pressure of the Brazilian with stone hands. We have a new middleweight champion. Since Adesanya basically beat everybody in the division, there was no other option but to give him a rematch with the newly crowned king. Last chance, he's 0 for 3. If he loses this fight, there's no more space for debate who the better fighter is. He understood the pressure.
But Saturday night, time for talking is done. I'm gonna show him my fighting spirit. This fight, like I've said, this is my 8-mile moment. This is it. One more shot at this. I put everything on my back. I've done everything in my power to make sure I do the worst thing to this man this weekend.
Israel Adesanya, this is a massive fight for you. Give us your thoughts on what this means to you and how tomorrow night goes down.
Everything.
It's UFC 287 in Miami, Florida. The hype is real, the fans are ready, and the fighters are about to have the final bout in their long-lasting rivalry. This is where we get one of the best post-fight celebrations of all time. Is this it for Poton? As we already established, Pereira is not the man to give up once something doesn't go his way. He was a huge 185-pounder, gaining up to 235 for the fight itself. He makes the decision to move up to light heavyweight, and even though he started off rough with a split decision win over Jan Blachowicz, he later went on the craziest win and finish streak I can remember in many years. He not only manages to avenge all the losses of his best friend and coach Glover Teixeira, but subsequently becomes the light heavyweight champion with 3 title defenses in less than a year. Who else has done that? Right, the fighters who are in the GOAT conversation: Mighty Mouse, Volk, Usman. So is Pereira worthy of being called the GOAT? Not yet, he isn't. Sure, there have only been 7 other fighters to win gold in 2 different weight classes: GSP, BJ, Nunes, Connor, DC, Jones, and Cejudo. But how can you be the GOAT without consistency and longevity? That's why we have fighters like Mighty Mouse, GSP, Anderson, Jones, Volk being contenders for the greatest of all time. It's about the level of competition, the dominance, the longevity, and maybe the innovation. The only way I see Poton becoming the GOAT is by going up to heavyweight, beating Jones or Aspinall, and claiming the 3rd belt, or by continuing to knock everybody out for another 2 or 3 fights. We'd have to see how he does against Ankalaev at UFC 313, because he's never faced a wrestler. Hard to call somebody the GOAT when a whole aspect of the game has been neglected. What do you think about Pereira? How far is he from being the GOAT if he isn't already? Let us know in the comments. Hit the like and subscribe button if you want to see more content about the best sport in the world.